Welcome, and thank you for joining us for Travel Talks this week. I'm Diane Cook, the owner and principal travel designer for Seven Seas to Sea Travel. I specialize in not so routine and bucket list travel adventures. This week, my special guest is a friend and industry colleague for many, many years I've known, and it is a pleasure to have her with us. Now, she has been with Tauck Tours for, is it 10 years?
Almost. It'll be
Almost 10 years.
January.
And now Tauck is not a name here in Canada that many Canadians are really familiar with, but this is truly an incredible product that exists, and so it's sort of a hidden gem for us. And I am so thrilled to have Charmaine with us today to share the Tauck difference.
Great. Thanks so much, Diane. And that's so true. You know, it's interesting. I cover the whole country with this incredible job that I get to do every day. And it's wherever we do a lot of journeys. So on the East Coast and on the West Coast of Canada, there is a slightly more recognition of the company because they've seen the coaches, or they know someone, especially when I'm down east. I think Nova Scotia and New Brunswick especially, and that's always an area that's been so close to the Tauck family for forever and ever and ever. So thanks so much for having me. I'm excited here to share our little story. And so I'll start off with, just for anyone who may not be that familiar, and even if you've just maybe heard of us, maybe you've got relatives or friends that have traveled with Tauck over the years. So we celebrated, albeit very quietly, our 95th birthday last year. As you can tell from this photo, we didn't just start yesterday. So we've been doing this for a really long time. And it all began with Arthur Tauck Sr. So Tauck is the family name, and we are very much owned and operated by the Tauck family. And Arthur Sr. Was a traveling salesman in New England. And he got an idea as he went around the area that he was seeing all these wonderful little places and getting out of the city. But everywhere he went, it was other business travelers like himself. And so he thought, you know, maybe people would love to do this too for fun, to get out of the city, to get out of their daily routine, see and learn all of these wonderful little pockets of New England that he was discovering. And so he put an ad in the Newark Times, not New York, but the Newark Times. And we'll be careful how we say that. And for $69 all inclusive, you could join him on the road in his Studebaker for a tour of New England. And now, of course, we think, wow, what a deal, right? But in 1925, that was not inexpensive. But 5 people thought it sounded like a great idea, replied to his ad, loved it, and told all their friends. And so we've truly never done any other newspaper advertising. That Arthur felt that got it all started. And so because they told their friends, the next year he ran 2 trips. And so on and so on and so on. And so ever since, with this small sort of spaces in time where we had to shut down, as we most recently had to do, but also during the Second World War, the U.S. government asked him to, for the war effort, asked him to stop running journeys for a few years. So it's interesting in that how things parallel. But I think what's really important is just the fact that we still very much cater and remember exactly what Arthur felt was really important back in 1925. So, you know, we go to more places. Obviously, we don't have the Studebaker anymore. So we do use different modes of transportation, like the hot air balloon that you see here in the photo. But it's also really just about what he touched on, what he figured out is still resonating with travelers today. And that is going above and beyond the ordinary, not just sort of, you know, seeing all the must-see sites and, you know, here you go, and here's the Eiffel Tower. And I mean, these are all things that we still want to see if you've never been. However, it's also about doing things a little bit differently. But one of the most important things at Tauck is truly that it's all included in the price. So quite often people will say to me, oh, you know, Charmaine, I've been looking at different companies. My advisor has shown me this, this, and this. And everything looks quite similar, but you're more money. So why is that? Well, one of the most important things is that there is so much more included in the price. So airfare is not included to get to the destination because we have people coming from all over the world. However, once you get on a Tauck trip, we've included all the excursions. So any photos or anything I talk about with you today, it's included. And for example, that hot air balloon ride that you see here, whether you're floating over the Serengeti or the Masai Mara, it's included. And that's about $550 US a person. So typically a lot of companies would not include it in the rate because it makes it look expensive. But ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, when you go here, you need to do that, to get up that one morning. And yes, it's early, but you float. It is absolutely one of the most magical things I think I've ever done. And so that's what we do. There's a whole team of architects behind every journey that takes a lot of time to really determine what should be included. And of course, if people don't want to do things, we make changes as we go along. But we really think if it's a must-see, it should be included. And again, traveling with some of the most incredible people. So not only are you traveling with other fellow travelers who want to learn more about a destination, maybe they've been with somebody else or done it on their own, and now they just want to explore more of that. So you're going to meet other people that love to travel as like yourselves, but also are incredible directors at Tauck. And I know that every company, doesn't matter whether you listen to any of the group that Diane's got here on her list, everybody tells you we have the best directors in the world. And I'm going to tell you ours are the best. Truly, ours are the best. But really and truly, what I would say to you is not only their passion and their knowledge for the destination that they represent every day, but also the fact that they don't sell you anything. And that just goes back to what I mentioned earlier. And if you've ever traveled on a company that, where somebody's trying to get you to buy one more excursion, or, you've got a free evening tonight, come with us for dinner, you don't have to worry about that with Tauck. That director is just there all day long to ensure that you're having an incredible time looking after all those little details that we've all had to do over the last year or so, and just sit back, relax, and take it all in and know that you're in really good hands with someone who truly cares and wants to ensure that you're having a great time and still doing it within a group of people, because we are what we call a guided company. And that means you are traveling with other guests. So you got to like people. So hopefully you like people and you don't cut off now at this point in the video. All right. So how do we do things? Well, as I said, it all began in 1925 with a tour of New England in a Studebaker. And over the years, as our guests have asked us for other destinations, we have very carefully, very slowly added. And so now you can visit literally every continent in the world with Tauck in one way or another. And we still have our iconic land journeys as such, to use that word. But that's really how we have expanded into the river cruise world, the small ship programs, which we'll touch on a little bit as we go along. And one of the most fabulous ways to travel as well, too, is with families. So our Bridges program is our multi-generational programs. I don't do a lot on that today, just because with a half an hour or so, whatever Diane has given me, I can't do all 250 journeys. But just know that if you've got, you want to travel with family members, and some of us saw enough of them over the year that maybe we don't want to, but ultimately have a look for that. So let's go on a little journey around the world now, and I'll explain a little bit more about how we do things. Oh, and before I forget, yes, everything began in the United States. However, we are in Canadian dollars, and it is a locked-in rate. And I'll just explain a little something else for that peace of mind motto that I talked about earlier. And that is the beauty with Tauck is that whether you decide today to buy a trip, or you decide 6 months from now, the price is the price is the price. It doesn't change. What you see on the website, and when we get back to printing brochures, that doesn't change. So there's a wonderful peace of mind knowing that no matter when you bought it, who you are, how many trips you've done with Tauck, everybody will pay the same price. And so you'll never have someone turn to you and go, "How much did you pay?" Never happens. And not that should happen anywhere. And maybe you've never done that, and good for you if you haven't, but there are people out there who do. So I just think it's important to know that we've set the price for that year, and it lives and it doesn't change. And the exchange rate is very good. So do keep that in mind. So lots of times I get asked, "So Charmaine, what's a Tauck?" a Tauck is a who, not a what. So we are, as I said, family owned and run, third generation now running the company. Arthur Jr., who I believe turns 90 this year, is still a very big influence with the company. So we do lots of things. As I said, we started with a Studebaker, and again, sometimes I think people have this perception of what a guided holiday would be, and it's a big coach, and you're, going from lots of places every day and sort of soaring past them on the coach. But we're very different than that. And yes, we do, use coaches, of course, because as I said, sometimes it's the easiest way to get around. And isn't it great that the coach comes with a driver and you don't have to do that? There's somebody up front, doesn't matter what side of the road you're on, is just going to take care of everything. But every journey will include at least one or more different types of transportation. So, for example, you see the Model T Ford on our Michigan journey. So if you've ever not traveled, I should say, to Michigan, to Mackinac Island, which is just a fabulous place, we will take you there in Dearborn, Michigan for a tour in a Model T Ford. So not too many people, are doing these kinds of things. Float plane ride between Vancouver and Victoria, and then train travel. Train travel is really growing with us. A lot of our guests have been telling us they want to do more train trips. And again, it's a very fun, interesting way to see things. Sometimes we use it to maximize our time wherever we happen to be traveling. And then sometimes it's part of the journey. So we came up with a new tour for Europe a couple of years ago. Of course, we didn't get to run it last year in 2020. However, hopefully, maybe later this year or definitely in 2022. So if you've ever thought what a great way to see more of Europe. So here you're not only traveling on the train, but it's where you're going to sleep for 3 incredible nights on the Golden Eagle Danube Express, traveling between Milan, and you probably can't see it for our little pictures, but between Milan and, now I just forgot, Vienna. Stop, think where we are. Oh, it's too bad. I'll be okay. Anyway, so traveling between these 2 cities in both directions, and then you have a couple of nights as well. And you may be thinking, well, Charmaine, I've kind of done this area. You're going to see it differently from Tauck. And you're really, as I said, this is part of what it's all about, is this romantic, beautiful train that becomes part of the destination experience, not just a mode of transportation. So if you've always sort of wanted to do something, it's only a week, so you can add it on if you've got other things that you may be looking to do in Europe. And I know, Diane, you'll probably agree with me, more and more people are looking to have longer journeys. Yes. Would you say? Yeah. So
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So great way to add on to something else. This one is also only a week. Again, if you've been to Italy, it's a country we can all go back to again and again, and we all should go back to again and again and again. So Tuscany, Cinque Terre, a little different spin on this journey as well too, because again, you've got, you're traveling on the water at points. When you're in Cinque Terre, if you're familiar with it, it's 5 villages, hence the name. And you can walk should you wish to do so, but if you don't, it's okay. We'll give you a train ticket and you can, go up through the villages that way. But if you are inclined to be, more active, you want to cycle, you want to do more than just sit and take in the sights, this is really something to have a look at, because we do different things. Lucca, for example, we do a bike ride here as well. And again, who doesn't want to sit at that table and look out over the Tuscan with a glass of wine? I don't know, for me, perfect. I don't need to bike. I can just, I'll meet you at the table. Anyway, so a great little journey, and I'll show you a little clip of that hopefully in a few minutes. The other journey that was sort of redesigned a few years ago, and as I said, we refer to the people in our office who aren't there often for sure, but our architects who design all of our journeys and take years to do so. So this journey was sort of revamped a few years back. And again, something to keep in mind if you've been to Spain, but probably you've been to Barcelona, if you've done any cruising, or maybe you've been to Madrid, or you've spent time in Malaga. But this is a great way to see the northern part, and it's not rushed. You're going to spend 2 weeks staying in some of the paradors, Santiago de Compostela. I've just butchered the Spanish language, my apologies. But again, just really spending more time in a really fabulous part of Spain, but not something that everybody has been to. And that beautiful building you see there on the left-hand side is the Marqués de Riscal. It's a hotel. And so we get to spend 2 beautiful nights there. The reason I'm familiar with this region is that I spend a little bit of time in the LCBO, and I love the Spanish wines from this area. So, so again, if you're looking for those kinds of things and the different types of activities, you can choose one day if you like to have a cooking class or maybe go to a spa. So again, it's not always sort of your typical sightseeing. Ireland is a destination, I think, that everyone, we all want to be Irish. So there's some story, I think, that on St. Patrick's Day, we're all Irish. I certainly claim some Irish roots on my mother's side through Newfoundland. And, but it's a fabulous destination, and we do it in different ways. So we have a 1-week journey, we have a 2-week journey. And you'll also notice that we have what we call a small group journey for Best of Ireland. And it is a little different than our regular program in that you have a couple of more castle stays, but there's also just dates that we designate for smaller groups. Typically, you could have as many as 40 people on a tour with Tauck. Again, that'll be determined with, moving forward in this world we live in, whether we'll have 2 coaches or 1. But typically, we could have as many as 40, and then you would have a small group date designated as up to 24. But as I said, with Best of Ireland and a couple of other journeys, you will see it listed twice in the brochure. And that just means, again, that you've got some different points, visits and calls. So there's some slight differentiation. And if I said that way too fast, I already warned you that I have Irish roots. So I do talk quickly, but Diane can help you with any of those questions that you might have. If you're a bit nervous, maybe about traveling with a larger group, and that's to be understood. That's the beautiful Merchant Hotel. And again, just to touch on some of the things that we love to do, obviously we're going to take you to the Ring of Kerry and the Cliffs of Moher and all of those beautiful places that you should not miss when you go to Ireland. But here we have a wonderful evening where we recreate a tasting menu of 9 courses that's been taken directly from the Titanic menu. Now there's a bad joke. It's a different ending, but you get, anyway, just make sure you're all still awake. The other thing I always like to say is that, especially when I listen to some of my friends out there on the road, that, we're all about doing things differently and getting off the beaten path. And that's what we've been doing since 1925. This is a wonderful gentleman whose dairy farm we stop in to visit when we're in Ireland. And it's, I always say that sometimes what you take away, what you remember from a trip is sometimes not the big things, right, Diane?
Yes.
It's the little things that matter in life. And this was an absolute highlight for me. I did the 1-week Ireland a few years back. And this gentleman just could not have been more accommodating, welcomed the Tauck group in with open arms. And it was all about learning about his heritage. He entertained us with a little jig. His wife put on this fabulous little spread, which unfortunately I got the photo near the end when most of the food had been eaten. But again, it's just, I spent time talking to his daughter-in-law who happened to be visiting with her kids about daycare issues. I think that what binds us all around the world is that there are common things, but we learn and we get to experience things. And this is just another example, really, that doesn't show up really in the brochure, but I just wanted to share a little something with you that we do all these great little things. And as I said, it's our tour architects just love being able to find all of these wonderful experiences. So as I said, we're going to go around the world fairly quickly here in a half an hour. Our exotics program is basically anywhere we go in the world that isn't in Europe or North America. So this is where you'll find Africa, obviously, Asia, South America. And there are very varied types of journeys that we do here. And definitely, if you've got some interesting places on your bucket list, Tanzania and South Africa are 2 of my favorite places that I've ever been to. If you're looking to do just sort of a classic safari and you've never done one, definitely look at East Africa because you do get those really fabulous, intimate experiences, and especially with this one on the Kenya, Tanzania, it really is very much focused on safaring for the entire journey. And, people look at it sometimes and see all those little planes and they think, oh my gosh, look at all the plane rides. Ladies and gentlemen, the plane ride is part of the safari. You are in a smaller aircraft, right, Diane? And you're
Yes.
not flying high and you can see things. So it is everything we do comes back to enhancing the experiences and making good use of your time. And if you've not been to Africa, anyone who tells you that the roads are bumpy and dusty, it's not exaggerated. So sometimes it's nice to just get in that little plane and fly instead of driving the whole thing. And again, it just makes better use of your time and be able to see more of these two incredible countries. The Ngorongoro crater is just something, and it's taken me a long time to say that one properly. So one of the key reasons, of course, why you would want to go to Africa is not only when you're traveling in the Jeep, but when you just decide in the afternoon to go for a swim and some really incredible things or animals show up to say hello. And this is probably something that these young ladies will never forget for the rest of their lives. And I know for me, we had lots of moments like this, and so much so that I'm going back next year just because you can't get enough of Africa. Anyway, to just keeping in the line of sort of safaring, but from a different perspective, if you've had the Galapagos on your list, I would again encourage you to do it. Now you're cruising, obviously through the islands. This one is strictly just a Galapagos journey. So you just spend a night in Guayaquil in Ecuador. And the reason we pick Guayaquil, some people sort of go, why don't you start in Cusco? Well, Guayaquil doesn't have the altitude issues that Cusco has. So when you're only going for a week, and if this is really all you've got, or 9 days, you don't then have to deal with the altitude issues to get going on your journey. So we picked Guayaquil for that reason. It's not a lot to see, but it's still a very interesting town, but you're going for this little guy here, the blue-footed booby, right? We all love to say that word. Now we combine it with other one. This one is done on the Isabella, our partners at Metropolitan Tours. We don't own any ships or any hotels or anything at Tauck. It has bowed us well through this past year and a half, but we have incredible partners that we work with that are very dedicated to delivering the Tauck experience. So on this journey, we do use the Isabella. She's a great little ship. She holds about 40 people if she's full. And I had the pleasure of sailing with 32, and it was absolutely amazing. But we also have a program that we do in combining it with Peru, so that if you want to go to Machu Picchu, which again, if you've got the time and you're going that far, please, and yes, you don't have big time changes, but it's still a long flight to get down to the South America area. So Peru and the Galapagos is very popular. And we do some journeys with, as I said, the Isabella, which is a little more expedition, low key kind of ship. But if you want something a little more upscale, we have a great partner at Silver Sea, and I'm sure you're familiar with them. And we use their ships as well, too, on some of our journeys, combining it with Peru. We were very excited. When I joined Tauck a little over 9 years ago now, we had to pull Egypt from our program. And so we're happy to have it back. Hopefully things will, again, we live in a fluid world, as I'm sure Diane can share with you on any conversation. Every moment things change, but we are excited to have it back. And as I said, depending on when you're looking to travel, and we do it in a couple of different ways. You can do it with Jordan as well. Again, maximizing your time to combine these two incredible countries, or you can do Egypt on its own. And one of the main differences with the Egypt portion is the length of the Nile cruise. So when you do it with Jordan, you have a 3-night sailing. And when you travel on our Egypt journey on its own, it's 4 nights on the Nile. And again, we include Abu Simbel, another place that some companies will charge you a little extra for because you've got to fly, because they moved it. It's a long story if you haven't heard it. And we, on these journeys too, we take you behind the scenes and you get to spend an evening with Tutankhamun. So, if you've always wanted to spend time with with King Tut, you can do that with Tauck. So again, these are all the things that we're always looking for. But again, just keep in mind, this is extremely popular. And people have been waiting literally to go to Egypt for a while. So these journeys are continuing to sell well. And here we partner up with Oberoi. So if you're familiar at all with Oberoi hotels, they have ships as well, and we use their ships, and they are absolutely spectacular. So in the theme of river, with the Nile, let's go to Europe and do one of my favorite, well, who am I kidding? I love everything. I'm happy even just to go to Timmins because I hadn't been. So I went there last week. Nothing against Timmins. It was awesome. I loved my trip. But river cruising in Europe has been around now for quite a while, many longer than most people even realize, because I think it just became popular maybe 15, years ago, I think, to that extent. But it is really a wonderful way to see the middle of Europe. So if you like to cruise, there are obviously key differences between traveling on an ocean ship and a riverboat. And I'll let Diane go through all that with you privately. But if you haven't done it, I really encourage you to see it, because you really do get to see more of the middle. I mean, these are the original highways. Look at where you can go. I mean, if you have a month and you don't know what to do with, get on a ship in Amsterdam and sail all the way to the Black Sea. And we've got 2 rivers in France that we sail on, and you can do them in combinations of a week if that's all you've got, 10 days, 2 weeks. It really varies. And of course, you can add on other things. And we do a lot of land. That's sort of our thing at Tauck, is we destination experiences is our focus always with everything we do. But almost all of our river cruises do include a hotel component, a land portion, either at the beginning or end. And again, one of the key things with Tauck is looking for unusual places. And what we learn with river boats is that it's great to eat on the ship. And when you're sailing along, there is something very special. But you're sailing past beautiful chateaus and palaces and castles. So wouldn't it be nice to go visit them? And so at Tauck, we know that on every itinerary, we've included opportunities, generally dinners, sometimes lunches too, where we get off the ship and we go. And not only do we dine in these places, I really couldn't even tell you half the things I ate, but it's amazing to be in these chateaus. And then you hear the story and the history. Ereshoven, for one, has got an incredible backstory about what it does for some local women. And so you have entertainment, you've got music, you've got storytelling, and you've got great food, wine, and new friends. Like, really can't get any better than that. And it's all included. The other thing that we do at Tauck, and we've done it with lots of journeys, and as I said, I would literally be here all day to tell you about all of them, but we also have other partners who come and talk to our guests and share stories with them in more in depth, sometimes, than just the history of the palace. So you can see the photo in the center. I'm sure you recognize Sir Winston Churchill with the big cigar, but the lady sitting next to him is Celia Sands, and she's one of his granddaughters. And she, of course, this picture's taken a few years ago. She looks a little different now, but she is an incredible raconteur. I think is probably a really good word for her. She has written books about her grandfather, and she traveled with him extensively in his later years. And so she's got great stories. She's got stories to tell you about why she got to travel with him, but also just more in depth, not only the history, but as I said, things that only someone who knew him as well as she did can share. So we have a number of journeys, river and land, where we go to London, and you get to go to the Savoy Hotel and get to hear her share her stories. So that, again, is just something. And we have other great partners like that. Ken Burns, for example, if you watch documentaries on PBS, he's another great partner of ours as well too. So, and then, as I said, there's lots of other little things. What we've done as well too is that we know that not everybody, even people traveling together, want to do all the same things. So over the years, we've added more and more excursions, more active journeys, because more of us want to be walking, hiking, kayaking, whatever it might be. Or maybe you just want to sit on the coach with your daughter and go wine tasting in Châteauneuf-du-Pape. That's cool too. You get to do that. But if you'd rather bike there, fine, we'll set that up too. So there's lots of different ways to see things. Some of it is included straight up. You'll see it listed in the itineraries, but sometimes they're spontaneous. Sometimes it's just some things that we get to do. The Kuchenhof, not Kuchenhof, the, what's the name of the Kinderdijk? That's it. Kinderdijk. That's the shot on the right. You can't see the windmill for Diane's and my faces, but you can see that that's another included one. But for example, that's Dürnstein on the bottom left. And this is often a more spontaneous kind of thing. If guests would rather hike up to this old fortress at the top of the hill that you can see as you sail past, or you may be like myself and you start off with great intentions, but then a shop or a cafe calls you away. And so all of that's good too. So again, it's all about choices. You can choose in advance what you would like to do. But again, on river cruising, especially if you change your mind, Not to worry. So as I said, you know, we have a lot of the traditional castles and chateau visits, but there is certainly, and I know some well. I live with people who just would rather not see every church and cathedral in Europe. So we've added, again, choices of excursions. So if you can read the fine print on some of these cars, this is the Porsche Museum. And so when we visit one on the Rhine, we have one of our itineraries where you go and you get to walk around in the Porsche Museum. Now, again, it's not my thing, but guess what? It has a great cafe. So if you go, there's that at the end of the day. So, but again, BMW world, like there's lots of different things. So if you're into cars too, or other things, as I said, just have a look at what we do. And we do try to keep everybody happy. And one of the ways that truly that makes us unique and different and allows us to do all so many choices and spontaneous things and adding little things is that we have a team of directors on our riverboats. And that makes us very different from everybody else. So the very colorful gentleman that you see on the right-hand side is one of our cruise directors. And his role is really to always remain on the ship. Now we let them off occasionally. Obviously, they have to pick up treats if there's going to be a barbecue that he just decided last minute to have, things like that. But their role really is remaining there. And if some of you may remember, some of the challenges we've had pre-pandemic was water level issues or other things that can happen. So the beauty here is this frees up our other directors to just focus on our guest experiences. And in this case, Jeremy can take care of all the details and things that we might need to know. Do we need to move the ship earlier, or just making sure that your transfer at the end is arranged on time and that all your bags make it to where they should be. All those things that you don't have to worry about because we've got a team looking after you. But the beauty with our directors is they all bring different levels of expertise. And for example, Anita, who's standing right next to Jeremy, is a former FBI agent. So you probably wouldn't tell from looking at her, but she's pretty cool with some great stories. So, but again, it's really about enhancing the journey through little things. And what we don't list on the itineraries is our onboard lectures. And they vary because it depends on the directors we've got on board, the timing, who's available, and different things like that. But I was given an incredible gift when I was in Vienna a couple of years back to hear a lady, you can see her there in the left-hand side with the microphone, who was a local guide that we used on our tours of the ghetto, the Jewish ghetto in Vienna. She's retired, but she still loved Tauck, wanted to be a part of the story. So when she can, she comes on board the ship, albeit it was early, I think 8:30 in the morning. I had to get up for her lecture, but I will absolutely never forget her stories about what it was like to live in Vienna at that time frame and being born of a mother who was German and a father who was Jewish. And it's yeah, I'll just never forget. It was very emotional. It was a really incredible, but those are the kinds of things that we love to do on all of our journeys, wherever we are. And again, when you're not expecting it, or little surprises is something we love to do. And then not to forget, the whole reason why we love to river cruise is this: you get on the ship, you sit back, and remember, don't stay in your cabin or suite, get up on the sun deck, because you can only see both sides of the river then, and truly sail along, in this case, the Wachau Valley, but the Castle Row on the Rhine, any of these things, this is what we go for. And so it's absolutely spectacular. Even if you unfortunately get a chance to do it in the rain, which I've done, it is still one of the best reasons and why you should take a river cruise if you haven't. So a few things going on in Europe next year, just really quickly. Floriade is back. And if you're like a Flora what, it's a every 10 years. And next year, of course, it's going to happen to be in the same year as Oberammergau, which got moved. Again, if you're not sure, that's the Passion Play, and Diane can go through all that with you. But those both things are going to take place in Europe next year. And so we've got some journeys that will take you, if you like to learn more about flowers. But Floriade for 22 is really focusing on a more sustainable living. And so they've created a town, that is sustainable. And so you'll be able to learn about all of that. And of course, it's Holland, so there will be flowers, and there'll be tulips, and there'll be great food. And so it's a really great day. And we include a day there on, as I said, 4 itineraries. This one as well, the Cruising the Dutch Waterways. And Floriade runs from April to October. So it's, again, you don't have to sort of race over there at one particular time. And we're going to get you in early, so you'll have time to enjoy it before it gets too busy. We'll give you a little card. We'll put some money on it. We don't ask you what you do with that money. If you want to buy a tulip or you want to get something to eat, whatever you might want to do with that, it's up to you. And as I said, we always love to do different unusual things. This is a great way if you always wanted to see a little more of Holland, and maybe not necessarily during tulip season, because it really is just a fabulous country. Enkhuizen is one of my favorite stops that I've ever done on a river cruise. It's just this delightful little village. And then, as I said, we have our sparkling events. So this one here visits Morit's house. And if you're like me, I was like, okay, cool. Didn't know why I needed to know this. But so we have a private dinner here. We have a private tour. And this is the home of Vermeer's painting, The Girl with the Pearl Earring. So if you hadn't heard of it before, I'm sure you've all heard of the painting. So again, it's just something a little bit different. And we have a spectacular evening here, all included off the ship itself. One of my favorite countries in the world is Portugal, because I love food and wine. And so it's all here, and great history, and off the beaten track history is what I always say about Portugal, because it's not always the big name brand, sort of iconic places to see, but these incredible museums and galleries, and just it's a little more off the beaten track, I think, is how I've always sort of looked at Portugal. And so we have a new ship that was supposed to be christened last year. So we're aiming to christen her for this year. She'll sail on the Douro with 84 guests, a fabulous ship to do this river with a bigger pool, with an actual sort of pool, that you could call it. Again, by nature, the fact that it's a warmer destination. And do keep in mind that if you've river cruised before, a little different with the Douro is there is no sailing overnight. So if you're the type of person that wants to go to bed being lulled by the motion, or you're a person who doesn't like that, the Douro might be the right river for you, because there is no sailing, and you can just see by looking at it, it's the navigational issue. So we have 3 choices here. The most popular one, of course, is a 7-night cruise on the river, and then it's anchored with 2 nights in Madrid. You can see the yellow coach line there, and 2 nights in Lisbon. Where you see Salamanca and Coimbra, those are lunch visits. So we'll stop there on our way to the ship. And if you look, it's almost longer than the river itself. So it gives you an idea of what an incredible river it is. And then we have one that just cruises only. So it starts in Porto, it goes up to the Spanish border and back in 1 week. And then the last one you see again is our bridges, our family journeys. So again, we do family journeys, and they are specifically geared for families. You will not make the mistake of accidentally booking the wrong date. You can see very clearly, and they are designed for families traveling with kids. And it is fun. I have to tell you, one of the funnest itineraries that I've ever done. Always at Tauck, we look for every component of the trip has to fit with the destination where we're traveling. And so we work with some of the most iconic hotels wherever you may happen to be in the world, because they enhance the journey. And we want you to stay in Rome every night, in the center of Rome. We don't want you to be out at the airport for one night just because it's more convenient to get you out. I can see Diane nodding her head. So it really is about making sure that every moment of your trip matters, and that this becomes a part of the journey itself. And if you've ever wanted to stay and are ready to splurge maybe a little bit because you need to treat yourself after this insane year we've all had, have a look at what we do. And as I said, there are other properties that wouldn't be in the same group as all of these. But again, it matters where you are. So again, just have a look at any trip that you do. People come in all different ways on Tauck. We've got families, as I said. We also embrace and love our travelers that are coming on their own. We have special rates for river cruising. If you're happy to just sail on the lower deck, there's no supplement for that on a river cruise. And on land journeys too, where the supplements aren't that high anyway, we do have some dates where we specifically kind of reduce it a little bit. So that's our idea of a special at Tauck, is to have some rates where we can for our solo travelers. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we do have different sizes of groups, and we have private departures as well. So if you've got 10 to 24 people that you are very comfortable and would rather just travel with them, we have selected dates on our land programs only. So Europe, North America, and some exotic dates that we have designated for that. You won't have anyone else with you, but you will be doing the same journey that you see outlined. So we don't customize things at Tauck. We've been doing what we've done for 95 plus years now, and we know what we do well. And so that's what we focus on. And as I said, it is about making friends, having fun, and doing that with different amounts of people. So I'm going to try and show you a video. I'm going to see if this will work here. We'll see. And if it does, we're going to go to Europe. Can you hear the sound?
Yes.
Yay, let's go to Italy for a little bit.
Welcome to the museum. So the museum was founded in 1995.
I think it's the story of the American dream, and it's a story of love and passion, this company, and it still is today.
I love the yellow roads because those are the ones we love to take. They're the roads less traveled, the ones that are most scenic. But of course, in the Cinque Terre, there are no roads. We simply, the yellow roads are blue water. Blue water
Blue
or
water.
the train.
Yeah,
exactly, which is a really wonderful way to get off the beaten path.
What's unique for the Tauck guests is having lunch here underneath the pine trees alley in the place where the wine comes from.
The wine is delicious.
Yeah, this is off the beaten track.
I agree.
Really,
Yeah.
this is unbelievable. Yeah.
You can't get much better
Special.
than drinking wine in the middle of a vineyard.
You're right. Yeah.
Well, salud. Grazie.
Abbiamo compreso l'importanza di queste persone e l'importanza della Tauck. Noi siamo coscienti che abbiamo a che fare con un tipo di clientela di ottimo livello e come tali ci siamo comportati per servirli bene. Ma tutte le persone della Tauck sono della mia famiglia.
The experience they had tonight, there is a big difference. Most of the people, everybody is doing this during the day. They cannot see the Sistine Chapel the same way. Like tonight, it sounds like the Vatican belongs to us.
So, you know, it's my little getaway. If you've if you've only ever been to see the Sistine Chapel with hundreds, if not thousands of your closest friends, to be able to do it in the evening, and it is the evening, it's not like we go at 10 o'clock at night, but it's closed to the public. And as long as the guard is in good humor, you are welcome to take photos, no flash. But truly, I've talked to people, and if they're not art lovers, they're like, yeah, whatever, he painted the ceiling. It is different when you're there. And it's like with anything, somebody said to me, oh, I'm not into classical music. When you are in a venue and you're just sitting there and you're not only just taking in the ambiance and the music, none of it lasts forever. So it's not like we're going to make you sit through a 4-hour concert, but it's really just designed to give you a full experience wherever we happen to be in the best possible way. And so we just know that when you can see the Hermitage, when there's no crowds of people, when you can visit the Sistine Chapel or other places like that around the world and not have to do it with lots of other people pushing and shoving you, because that becomes the experience and not what you went to see. That's what we're all about at Tauck. And ultimately, all I would want anyone watching this is to just you know, if you've wanted to go deeper, if you understand that that's what you pay a little extra for, because obviously this doesn't come at the same price as doing it with lots of other people. That's how we do things at Tauck, really, in a nutshell, and why I use that video also, because I fell in love with Stanley Tucci's cooking show on Netflix this past summer. Anyway, ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, this is what we're about. We just want you to sit back, relax. You know, if you are ever asked on any trip, even if it's $20, to do something that you didn't pay for in advance, it takes you out of the journey. You have to stop, you have to think about it, you have to argue perhaps with the people you're traveling with about whether you should spend that extra 500 or 20 or whatever it might be, which means you're not still in the journey itself. And so that's why we do the things that we do, why we include what we do. And as I said, we don't include every meal when you're in Italy, for example, because we know that there are times you want to just maybe go off and do your own thing. Maybe you're just tired of Italian and you want Thai food. Our directors will give you lots of great recommendations, but there's no kickbacks. And again, if these are some of the things that have irritated you over the years, just have a look at what we do and you'll understand and see why we charge what we do for the trips. The value is there. It's the #1 word that we see on all of our comment cards. And Arthur Tauck Jr. goes through the comment card reports every week. He's excited to be back doing that again, because we are running a few journeys, of course, for most of our American friends. But that's what it's all about. It's never fun to go somewhere and be constantly worrying. That's what we do at home, right? So that's what we deliver. That's our focus on everything that we do. And lastly, I just want to leave you. Oh, and I've covered up your beautiful logo. So can I move?
Yeah,
Us? I'm going to try. No, let me try and move it. There we go. So it really is. It's not just about where you go. It is who you go with and who looks after you from start to finish. And Diane and I have known each other for many, many, many years. You're in great hands. She will make sure that you've got, you know, sometimes we think, oh, this is what we want to do, but you need to have a deeper conversation about what is it you really want to remember when the trip is over.
Yeah.
And sometimes things look great in an ad, or your friends at dinner say, oh my gosh, you should travel with these guys, or you should do this. Or it's easier if I do it myself. It's not. It's a lot of work. There's a lot more that goes into everything, and more so now than ever. So truly, have a look, talk to Diane if you haven't already done so. I encourage you. She's got passion and knowledge that goes beyond, not as far back as we do. She's there to help you out and answer any of your questions. So as I said, I hope you'll have a look at Tauck and keep us in mind for your future journeys down the road. Did I miss anything, Diane?
No, Charmaine, thank you so much. You just explained it so well. For my clients, I always try to include as much as possible, because nobody likes to feel like they're being nickel and dimed. And for those of us who have been on those other companies and traveled those ways, you know, you're thinking ahead of time, how much do I have to have for this? And how much do I have to have, because now you have to pay for these tours, and when are you coming back again? I mean, really, you need to do them all. So just pay for them ahead of time and have it all included. Those experiences, as you were showing the Vatican, when you're normally walking through the Vatican through the day, you can't even see all of the mosaic tiles on the floor because of all the people. You can't dare look down. You'll lose a wallet, or, you know, whatever, right? And you don't see anything on the walls because you're just, you know, crushed in by the people. And those are the things that really make the journey, you know, sitting in those wineries, the yellow roads, off the beaten path, you know, those are not just phrases to us, you know, we understand how important that is to have those experiences. And the hotels, it's not just about the thread count sheets. The hotels that you stay in, it's the location every time. And like you said, you know, just for convenience of, you know, the company to have somebody stay at an airport hotel, why would you waste one last night in Rome staying at the airport where you want to be right down, you know, at the Trevi Fountain, or, you know, for your last final walk together? You know, those are the things you want, and you just do it so well. So thank you for joining me.
You're
I am
welcome.
so grateful, and I am so sure that many of my clients will really appreciate and understand the value that this opportunity brings. So I look forward to definitely traveling with you myself and having many of my clients as well. So thank
be
you for
great.
your time and spending
Thank
this year
you.
with us.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much, Diane. Take good care, everyone.
And yes, thank you. See you next week.